then you're pushing me away. No, could I interest you in a bucket? What are you like?
What kind of kid were you?
I was well-behaved, polite, friendly, untroubled, short, became spotty, stayed short. I certainly wasn't edgy, and I certainly wasn't where it was at. I liked to perform, you know. I could do funny voices from the word go, and I just naturally did, you know, impersonating Kermit the Frog and things like that. It's just something you can do, and you think it's odd when other people remark on it, because, you know, to you as well, it's a normal thing you do. So I was very, I think, I mean, my parents may contact you after this and say, hang on a minute.
Lies?
Yes. But as from my memory, and I think I was a very nice, I like things to be nice. You know what I mean? I hate violence, unless I'm the perpetrator. No, I do. I don't like all these things that are going on at the moment with hoodies and stabbings and nastiness. All that makes me want to cry. Why can't people just be nice?
Get on!
You know? That, it's just, I hate all that. So and as a child, I was like that. I liked nice things. But I was always sort of appreciated. I was never told, oh, you'll never make it. I was always told, oh, you'll make it. You know, my teachers at school were always sort of rooting for me, you know. Even the ones in whose classes I was awful, and they were many, they always said, oh, but he's very good on the stage, isn't he? And he does a wonderful impression of whoever. I always had that support, you know.
I wish you more torture in the future, then.
Oh, don't get me wrong, I've had plenty of torture since then.
Good,
God,
good.
yes,
Oh, good, as long as you had your fill.
As an adult,
Good.
I've been racked with self-doubt and insecurity, but as a child, it all started out so well.
Yes. Were there a lot of laughs in your household? Were your parents...
Yeah, we liked comedy. I think we had a slightly above-average interest in comedy, you know? I think that, I mean, my parents liked stuff like Peter Cook and Barry Humphries. Barry Humphries is a big influence on me. And he was one of the first comedians I was aware of. I was aware of there being something else going on in what he was doing, and I was aware of there being a kind of intelligence to his humour. And Leonard Rossiter was a big hero and a big sort of influence. The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin. A show like that works on a lot of levels, because when I watched it first, when it first came out, I responded to the catchphrases and the sofa going, and I didn't get where I am today, super great. Then I watched it again in my late 20s, early 30s, and I said, wow, this is about a guy having a breakdown. And it was excruciating to watch, in a way. That would be great to make something like that could work on those two levels. So while I appreciated the complexities of Barry Humphries,
yes.
I was blind to Rossiter's darkness.
Complex. So teachers were saying you should go on the stage. So early on, then, this was a thought for you, was it?
Well, when I started off at school, I went to a very nice. Well, here's a relatively interesting thing. The first school I went to was a little prep school, private day school in Porthcawl in South Wales called St John's, which Eddie Izzard went to as well. How strange. And then I moved schools. Then I went to another little private day school in Swansea where Catherine Zeta-Jones was. So
what's going on?
I was insisting I would only go to schools with stars of the future. I know it is a bit odd. I mean, there can't be many people who went to Eddie Izzard's school and Catherine Zeta-Jones's school. And I met her then years later at the BAFTAs, and I was a bit drunk, and someone said, why didn't you come and say hello to her? And I would never normally do that, but I thought I was a bit drunk, so I went, and I stood in a line. Oh, I shudder to think of it. And she was stood there with Michael Douglas, because she's married to him. And she'd won a BAFTA, and she was receiving people going, and she was doing that thing, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. You're so kind. Hang on a minute. And then I got there and I said, oh, well done, Catherine. Thank you. And then I said, I went to Dumbarton, which is the school. I said, I saw Mr. Allard yesterday. And she went, did you? Oh, was he? And I thought, well, here we go. We're going to have a conversation. And with that, she went, and off she went.
What's wrong with her?
I don't know, Dawn. I don't know.
I'm going to get her for that.
Yeah. And, I've been through her rubbish, I've...
I've done impressions of her myself.
I know you have, very lovely ones.
I wouldn't call it an impression, actually. That's the wrong thing to call it.
It's a tribute.
Yeah, something like that. I can't
Slander.
do impressions, really. But I just pretended to be her, and then somebody took a photo of me at one of those gigs where I pretend to be her, and that photo's followed me everywhere as Dawn French out on the razzle. So did you do a turn, then? You did impressions for your family?
Well, yes, and when I was at the school that Catherine was at, I did, in 1977, when Star Wars came out, we did a stage version of Star Wars. Very ambitious, as I'm sure you'd appreciate.
Yes.
And I was Luke Skywalker, and the stormtroopers had cricket whites on and white skateboarding helmets with the plastic stormtrooper mask that you could buy in Smith's. And we had the lightsabers that you could buy in the shops. And we couldn't make an R2-D2 because it was a very difficult shape. So we made a K9 from Doctor Who instead, because that was like a video recorder box and a smaller box.
Difficult mix, though.
Yeah, well,
Couldn't you have just used a dusty bin?
It's really hard to get the cylindrical dome-like head of R2-D2
yes, I see
that would fit a body of the same size as the body.
Colander? No. Wrong. No, that would have been silly.
That would have looked, and don't take this the wrong way, a bit amateur. I don't think you appreciate the level of production value that we were striving for. We had Catherine Zeta-Jones in the audience.
Yes, of course.
Do you think I'm going to put a colander on the top of a pencil case? What are you, mad?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Can you forgive me?
Michael Douglas was lurking at the back as well, casting his eye over some of the younger girls, going, yeah, not now, but later. Yeah, so we did that, and then I moved schools, and I went to a Porthcawl Comprehensive where they had a thriving drama department, and I started to do the musicals, and I played the lead in Carousel and Guys and Dolls and stuff like that, and that was when I got the real bug for it, and that was where people would always encourage me, because I wasn't particularly academic. I was particularly unacademic, and I was very poor. And
is that Welsh for thick?
Yes, yeah. I just wasn't good. I have much more interest now in learning things than I did then, and I wish I had learnt more then. And they would always encourage me,
But were you funny?
Well, yeah, I suppose so. I like to think so.
Was your instinct to make things
Oh,
funny?
yes. My instinct was always... I read a thing once, Jerry Seinfeld said that, a comedian is a very obvious thing, but he said he's always looking at the angle on any situation. And, of course, I grew up thinking that that's what everybody does. That slight detached quality you have in any situation where you're looking, well, how do I have to look at this for it to be funny? What angle? How do I slightly have to twist it to make this funny? And I've done it in. My son broke his arm, and that was quite traumatic. And I was at the hospital with him, sleeping on his bed, top to toe and everything that night. But I was immediately thinking how that could work in Marion and Jeff, and how Keith would react if it were Keith's little boy that it had happened to. You just can't help it, And the good side of that is that when bad things happen to you as a person, it's slightly cushioned by thinking, well, I could use this.
That's a routine.
Yeah, and I could just twist it slightly, and some things you don't have to twist too much, you can just do them straight. But some you think, well, I just exaggerate that a little bit.
So when did you think this is going to be my career?
Well, yeah, early on, but as much as anything else, because I really couldn't do anything else. I went to drama college in Cardiff to be an actor. And while I was there, I did a comic turn on a radio show and got spotted by a producer. And was then offered my own radio show. So I left college and became a DJ, just because I thought, well, wow, I have some money and it's work and, And I did 6 years of presenting radio shows, and I was like a kind of poor man's Keith Chegwin. I was doing regional funny stories on magazine programs, And I wanted to be funny, and I wanted to be a comedian or a comedy actor, and I felt I was more in a kind of journalistic field, and I was really frustrated by it, really frustrated. And people who'd started out with me, Dougray Scott was in my year at college, and he was soaring away. And I really thought, well, you know, that'll never happen for me now, because they're too far ahead now.